Alright, welcome back. In this lesson, I want to show you guys how to create tables in Microsoft Access. So remember we spoke about objects and we mentioned that our database consists of tables, forms, queries, and reports. But before that, you have to design your tables and so forth, right? But at this point, I'm hoping that you got the understanding of the design phase and you already decided what data you want to put into your database. You sketched out your tables and so forth. So at this phase now, I want to show you guys how to create tables. So let's get Microsoft Access opened. All right, so to create, let's get Access opened. I'm using Access 2013. So if this is the first time you're opening Access, let me go through this quickly. There's a bunch of different templates that you can download and use in Access, right? For us, because I'm showing you now how to create a database from scratch, means that we're going to blank desktop database. So you can explore a bunch of these templates. It generates it for you and they're ready to use. But I prefer to build my database from scratch to suit my needs or customize my database. And in this case, because we're learning about database, I want to show you guys how to create tables from scratch, right? So blank database, I'll give it a name. Now, the database that I'll be creating is based on running a hotel. So the database will contain customer name or customer information. It will contain a room information, and then they'll have some sort of transaction to give that particular room to that particular customer, right? So I'm calling this my, let's call this a hotel database or room management. Let's call it room management. So a room management database, I'm storing it in my documents. Great. Now, first object in Access is tables. Now by default, it generates something called table 1 for you, which we'll modify into the table that we want. So Access does a great job of creating a small table for you. So let's right click and choose design view. Right click and choose design view. And we will call this table, this is our first table, we'll call this our customer table. Let's capitalize the first word, first letter in each word. So right click, design view, right? Now, if you remember, we planned out what our field names will be. My first field is normally my primary key. And so my primary key I'll put here as my customer ID. And if you had this little security number for a customer, you can use that. We can specify to have it auto numbered, but in this case, I want to put in my own number, so I'll put it as number. Now the primary key is already beside the field. If this was not here, I could right click and choose primary key, right? So this turns it on and off. Remember that the primary key is a unique identifier. Next one then is my first name of the customer, which is a short text. Last name of the customer, which is also a short text. And if there's a field that you think that you need to put some notes to, because you might forget some information about it, you can put a description here. Of course, this is optional, right? Other things are the field properties here, where you can set field size, you can do some formatting, you can work on input mask, and we'll take a look at some of these later on. Again, if there's a particular one you want to discuss, leave it in the comment below so we can speak about them, right? I'll come back to field properties later on. So first name, last name, we'll say we also want their date of birth, and of course we would like a physical address and an email address, and if possible, let's also collect their phone number. Notice that I have phone number as short text, simply because some people will store the phone number with a dash in between, which is not recognized as a number. So customer ID I have as a number, first name, last name, date of birth, address, and so forth, right? So I'll save this. To save this, click here, and you want to save changes? Yes. And so you have built your first table. If you want to go back and make changes to those tables, then you can right click and choose design view. Takes you back into the table. If I just double click the table, it's ready for me to enter data. And so I would enter data across the rows, which we identified as records the last time. So I'll go ahead and build the other two table, which will be one for the rooms with a little bit of description about the room, and then the other one will be our transaction table. So to go to create table design, right? And so this table now is my room table. So my primary key is my room ID. I set it as primary key by right clicking on room ID and choosing primary key. You may have a room name. Some people name their rooms. You might want to put a description, a location, maybe a number of beds. And this can be a number. Good? So that's my room table. If there's any need to make any changes, I can always go back and make changes. If I forgot something in here, like if I did, or if I didn't want a particular field, I could right click on the field and choose delete rows. Or if I forgot and I want to add something in between, I can right click and insert rows to insert in a new field. So yes, we'll call this table our room table. And let me add the space in between here. The old way of creating databases, you don't add space. I know this version of Access does take spaces, so it's okay, right? So create table design, and now our last field, our last table, sorry, is my transaction table. So let me call this transaction ID, which will be of type text. Let's make it a number. Let's make this our primary key. And inside that transaction table, we will have the customer ID, which we use, and I don't remember what field I use, so I'll go back. Customer ID, and here we use room ID, right? Let me close those. So I will have my customer ID, so I can keep track of which customer comes in. I want to know which room they rented, so I'm doing room ID. I want a price for the room, and of course this is currency. And I also want to know the date it was rented. Sorry, let's call it date occupied or date rented. It's rental, right? And that is a date/time. I don't know if there's any other information I would like to add in. I can put in the number of persons staying in the room, but again, I'm keeping track of person per room in this case, right? So it won't complicate things as yet. All right, so customer ID is short text, room ID is short text. You need to ensure that these IDs, because now these are foreign keys, you need to ensure that these match exactly what you have in these two tables. So I'm going back to design view. This is a number, so I need to change that. And design view for room table is short text. So notice customer ID should be a number, and it is a number because I have it as a number in the other table. So it's a foreign key here, but it's a primary key to the other table. And I have room ID as short text, so that is okay because I use short text in both tables. So that is how you create tables in Microsoft Access. So I'll save this as my transaction table. Okay. So I've created my 3 tables in Microsoft Access. See you in the next tutorial.